The email came at 2:14 a.m. on a cold October night. I stared at my laptop screen, half a bottle of whiskey deep, eyes burning from another sleepless night. My name is Lucas Voss. 31 years old. Former architect. I left Chicago 6 days ago after my wife, Sarah, filed for divorce and moved in with my best friend, Derek. The same Derek who was supposed to be my brother from another mother. I needed to disappear. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere cheap. Somewhere the memories couldn't reach me. The ad for 47 Hawthorne Lane in Milford, Massachusetts promised exactly that: historic Victorian home. Fully furnished. Perfect for someone seeking solitude. $650 per month. It felt too good to be true. I should have listened to that feeling. The drive took 15 brutal hours. When my old Jeep finally rolled onto the dead-end street, the sun was sinking behind the bare trees like it was running away from the house. Number 47 stood waiting, 3 floors of weathered gray wood, black shutters, and ivy that looked like it was slowly strangling the building. An elderly woman stood on the porch. Perfectly styled gray hair, pearl earrings, and a buttoned-up cardigan. She looked like she belonged in a different decade. Mr. Voss. Her voice was gentle, almost sweet. I'm Evelyn Carter, the property manager. Her handshake was cold and dry. Most men don't stay here very long, she said while handing me the keys. But something tells me you might be different. Why's that? I asked, forcing a tired smile. She looked at me for a moment too long. You look like a man carrying heavy guilt. This house is good at helping people carry things, or letting them go. I laughed awkwardly and brushed it off. The inside smelled of aged wood, lemon cleaner, and something faintly metallic underneath. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked louder than it should. My bedroom on the second floor had a big oak bed and an antique mirror that made the room feel larger and somehow watched. I unpacked my bags, drank more whiskey, and passed out before midnight. The whispering started on the third night. At first I thought it was the wind rattling through old pipes. But by the fifth night I could hear my name mixed in the murmurs. Lucas, Lucas. It came from inside the walls. I pressed my ear to the wallpaper. The voices stopped instantly. When I pulled away they continued. By the end of the first week, the whole town seemed to treat me differently. When I mentioned I was living at 47 Hawthorne Lane, people at the gas station and the small diner would suddenly become very quiet. The old cashier finally spoke one evening. That house has taken a lot of men over the years. Taken? I asked. He looked away. Some leave. Some don't. That night I found the journal. It was hidden behind a loose wooden panel in the bedroom closet. Old, leather-bound, filled with different handwritings spanning decades. The first entry was from 1978. My name is Richard Harlan. If you're reading this, you're the newest tenant. This house knows what you did. It knows what you're ashamed of. It feeds on it. When it gets hungry enough, it will speak with your own voice. Get out while you still can. I read entry after entry. Men confessing affairs, betrayals, violence, failures. One guy in 2007 kept writing the same line again and again. I didn't mean to push her. The last entry was from 8 months ago, written by someone named Claire. Wait, no. The last few pages were written by a man named Daniel. She was pregnant. I couldn't handle it. The house showed me everything I did to her that night. I can't live with the man I am anymore. If you're the next one, run. Before it makes you face yourself. I closed the journal with shaking hands. That night the house stopped whispering. It started showing me things instead. I woke up at 3:33 a.m. and saw the mirror reflecting a different version of my room. My clothes were neatly folded. I never fold clothes. There was a woman's dress on the chair. And in the mirror, I saw myself standing right behind my sleeping body, smiling. I wasn't smiling in reality. I turned around fast. Nothing. When I looked back at the mirror, my reflection was still smiling for several long seconds before it copied my terrified expression. I smashed the mirror with a lamp. Instead of silence, I heard deep, masculine laughter, multiple men laughing at me from every direction. The next days became a nightmare. Every time I tried to work on my laptop, deleted photos and old messages would appear. Messages I sent to Sarah when I was drunk and angry. The night I got violent with her. The night Derek had to pull me off her. The shame I had buried for 2 years. The house knew my darkest secret. On the 13th night, I discovered the basement door. It was hidden behind the pantry, painted the same color as the wall. The handle felt like ice. I remembered the warning from the journal. Don't open the basement door. But I could feel the house pulling me toward it, like it was breathing against my neck. I opened it. The wooden stairs disappeared into total blackness. A thick smell of wet earth, rot, and something sickeningly sweet came up. I turned on my flashlight and went down. The basement was much bigger than it had any right to be. The walls were covered in names and dates. 17 names. All men. At the far end, fresh red writing looked like blood, spelled out. Lucas Voss, 2025, I deserve this. My legs nearly gave out. Then I saw them. 17 bodies sitting upright against the far wall. Some just bones. Some still had flesh. Their mouths were stitched shut with thick black thread. The last one still looked fresh. I recognized the face from the final journal entry. Daniel. Suddenly all the stitched mouths opened at once. The voices spilled out, deep male voices, overlapping, angry, broken, guilty. Welcome home, Lucas. My own voice was among them. I ran up the stairs, but the door slammed shut before I could reach it. The lights in the entire house began turning off one by one. I could hear heavy footsteps, many of them, climbing the basement stairs behind me. I barricaded myself in the bedroom, pushing the heavy oak dresser against the door. That's when I saw the journal lying open on the bed. A new entry had appeared in my own handwriting, though I had no memory of writing it. Tonight I will join the others. The house needs another voice. I'm tired of carrying what I did to Sarah. Tired of pretending I'm still a good man. The footsteps reached the bedroom door. The dresser started sliding across the floor by itself. The voices were no longer outside. They were inside my head now. Lucas, it's time to come downstairs. Time to confess. Time to stay. I'm writing this final entry right now with trembling hands. If you're reading this, it means you just moved into 47 Hawthorne Lane. I'm sorry. The house doesn't murder you. It makes you face the worst thing you've ever done, and then it makes you punish yourself for it. And once you break, it keeps your voice forever so it can welcome the next broken man. The door just burst open. They're here. I can see their faces now, all of them standing behind me in the broken mirror pieces on the floor. I think I'm ready to go downstairs. If you're the next tenant, don't open the basement door. If you ever hear your own voice on 87.9 FM in Echo Ridge, Colorado, don't listen. Because by the time it finishes speaking, you'll have exactly 7 days left to live, and it already knows the worst thing you've ever done. My name is Ryan Calder, 34 years old, former investigative journalist and true crime podcaster. I came to Echo Ridge chasing a story. I had no idea the story would end up chasing me to death. The town sat high in the Colorado Rockies like a wound that refused to heal. I arrived in early October as the aspen trees burned gold and red. My Tacoma truck rattled over the narrow mountain roads while my podcast Buried Truths needed a breakout season. 12 people had vanished in the last 12 years after hearing the signal on 87.9 FM. Locals said if your own voice came through the static, your time was almost up. I thought it was perfect Halloween content. I checked into the Ridge Rest Motel. The old man behind the desk, Mr. Harlan, slid me the key and spoke without looking up. Stay off the radio after dark, especially 87.9. I grinned. That's exactly why I'm here. You finally met my eyes. Then you're already dead, son. The first 2 days I interviewed locals. Most clamped shut the moment I mentioned the signal. Only Beth, a tired waitress at Ma's Diner, gave me something real. My brother heard it last October, she whispered. His own voice said, you left her to die. 4 days later his truck was found at the bottom of the ravine. No body. She told me her brother had hit a girl while drunk and never reported it. That night, alone in my motel room, I did what any good journalist would do. I tuned the old portable radio to 87.9 FM. Static hissed for almost a minute. Then clear as day my own voice came through. Ryan, you shouldn't have come here. Mia is still waiting for you in Chicago. She still has the scars you gave her. My blood ran cold. No one in this town knew about Mia, my ex-fiancée whose mental health I abandoned. The woman I left broken after she begged me to stay. The woman who tried to kill herself 2 months after I walked out. The voice continued calmly. You felt relieved when she swallowed those pills, didn't you? I smashed the radio against the wall. It kept playing from the broken plastic for 10 terrifying seconds. The next morning, the same radio was sitting on my nightstand, completely intact. That was day 1. By day 3, I couldn't leave the town. Every road I took circled back to the main street. GPS lied. Maps lied. Even the mountain passes seemed to twist me back toward Echo Ridge. The signal grew stronger. It moved from the radio to my phone, my laptop, the television in my room. Every device played my own voice confessing things I had never told anyone. You smiled inside when her mother cried at the hospital. You told your friend she was crazy so you wouldn't look like the villain. You're not here for a podcast, Ryan. You're here because you want to disappear the way she almost did. On the fourth night I saw the first copy of myself. I was eating at Ma's diner when I looked out the window and saw me, standing on the other side of the street, staring straight at me with dead eyes. When I ran outside, the other Ryan was gone. Only my own footprints remained in the fresh snow. I drove to the edge of town to meet Tom Whitaker, an old park ranger who supposedly knew the truth. He lived in a small cabin surrounded by pine trees. After I told him everything, he poured me whiskey and spoke quietly. The signal started in the 1950s when they built a radio tower over an Indian burial ground. It doesn't kill you. It forces you to face what you really are until you break. Then it adds your voice to the broadcast forever. He showed me photos of the missing people. All men. All running from something dark. I asked if there was any way to stop it. Tom looked at me with pity. Only one way. Confess everything at the tower on Dead Man's Peak. But once you do, you don't come back the same. That night I made the hike up Dead Man's Peak. The forest was alive with sound. Every tree seemed to play the signal. Hundreds of versions of my voice overlapping, listing every cruel thing I had done to Mia. The emotional abuse. The cheating. The way I blocked her number while she was in the psych ward. Halfway up the trail, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. It was me. Another Ryan Calder stood 10 feet away, smiling with empty eyes. "You don't get to leave," he said in my voice. "I've been waiting for you." I ran. More versions appeared, 2, then 4, then 7. All of them wearing my face, all of them repeating my sins. I reached the old radio tower at the top of the ridge. A small concrete building sat at its base. The door was open. Inside, the walls were covered with photographs of every person who had ever disappeared. In the center was a single microphone connected to the tower with a sign above it. "Confess. Be free." The copies of me surrounded the building. I had no choice. I sat down and spoke into the microphone. "My name is Ryan Calder. I destroyed the only woman who ever loved me. I was cruel when she needed kindness. I abandoned her when she was broken. I felt relief when she tried to end her life. I am a coward. I deserve this." The moment I finished, a crushing weight lifted from my chest. For the first time in years I felt peace. Then the tower began to hum loudly. All my doppelgangers walked forward and stepped into me. One by one they merged with my body. I felt their guilt, their pain, their endless regret. Every man who had confessed here before me became part of me. When the last one entered, I looked down at my hands. They were turning transparent. I walked out of the building feeling strangely calm. The forest was quiet now. The signal had stopped. My last clear thought was, now I can tell the truth forever. 3 weeks later, a new podcaster arrived in Echo Ridge. His name was Alex Rivera. He was investigating the disappearance of Ryan Calder. On his second night at exactly 11:59 p.m., he tuned his radio to 87.9 FM. A calm, clear voice came through the static. My voice. "Hey Alex, you shouldn't have come here. Your sister still cries every night because of what you did to her in 2022. If you ever find an old, unmarked USB drive in your late father's belongings, don't watch the videos on it. Because once you see what's on it, the person in the footage will start watching you back." My name is Marcus Hale. I'm 36 years old, a software engineer from Seattle. 2 months ago my father died of a heart attack. I drove back to our small hometown in rural Oregon to clear out his house. He lived alone for the last 12 years after Mom passed. Most of his stuff was normal: old tools, fishing gear, tax papers. But at the bottom of his office drawer I found a small black USB drive with no label. Just a piece of tape with "Watch Alone" written in his handwriting. I almost threw it away. But curiosity won. That night, back in my old childhood bedroom, I plugged it into my laptop. There were 12 video files, each dated over the last 3 years. All shot from a hidden camera in my father's living room. The first video was dated March 12, 2022. It showed my father sitting on his couch, talking directly to the camera. "If you're watching this, Marcus, I'm already gone. I'm sorry I never told you. It started after I bought this house camera system. At first it was just recording when it shouldn't. Then it started showing things before they happened." I laughed nervously. Dad was always a little paranoid. But as I kept watching, the videos got worse. In one clip from January 2023, my father was arguing with someone who wasn't there. He kept saying, "I know what you did to that girl in 1998. Get out of my house." I froze. In 1998, my father was investigated for the disappearance of a local waitress. He was cleared, but the case was never solved. He never talked about it. The later videos showed him becoming more terrified. He kept looking at the corners of the room. In the final video, recorded just 4 days before he died, he looked straight into the camera, eyes bloodshot, and whispered, "It's not a camera anymore, son. It's a window." And something came through. "If you're watching this, it already knows you're my son. Don't stay in this house. Burn everything." The video ended with him suddenly looking behind him in fear, screaming, and the camera cutting to black. I should have stopped there. Instead, I went downstairs to the living room where my father had installed the same security camera system. It was still there, 4 small cameras covering the main areas. I turned the system on. At first nothing happened. Then at 2:47 a.m. the motion sensor light turned on in the kitchen even though I was sitting in the living room. I checked the live feed. The camera showed me sitting on the couch, but I was also standing in the kitchen doorway staring at myself on the couch. I looked behind me. No one was there. When I looked back at the screen, the other me smiled slowly even though I wasn't smiling. I unplugged the entire system immediately. The next day I tried to leave town. My car wouldn't start. The mechanic in town said nothing was wrong with it, but it still wouldn't turn over. I ended up staying another night. That night the cameras turned on by themselves. Every screen in the house, my laptop, my phone, the TV, started showing live footage of the house. But it wasn't the present. It was showing me doing things I hadn't done yet. I saw myself crying in the bathroom. I saw myself burning papers in the backyard. I saw myself hanging from the ceiling fan in the living room. I smashed every camera I could find. But the footage kept playing. On the 3rd night I found my father's old journal hidden under the mattress. He had written detailed notes about what he saw. He believed the camera system had recorded something evil that attached itself to our family after the 1998 incident. He thought it had been watching him for years, feeding on his guilt. The last line in the journal was written in shaky handwriting. "It doesn't want me anymore. It wants my son. Marcus, if you read this, run. It wears our faces." At 3:33 a.m. I heard my own voice coming from the upstairs hallway. "Marcus, come upstairs. I need to show you something." I didn't go. The voice became angrier. It started listing things only I knew. Private failures, things I did after my divorce, the night I almost hit my ex-wife, the money I stole from my company. It knew everything. I ran to the front door, but it was locked from the outside. All windows were sealed shut even though I hadn't locked them. The TVs turned on all at once. Every single one showed me standing right behind myself, smiling. I turned around slowly. There I was, another Marcus standing 5 feet away wearing my clothes, my face, but with completely black eyes. "You look just like Dad did," it said in my voice. "Same fear. Same guilt. We're going to have so much fun together." I fought. I screamed. I tried to break a window. But in the end I couldn't escape. The last thing I remember is seeing myself on the camera feed, calmly walking upstairs with a rope in my hand while the real me begged for mercy. If you're watching this video right now, the one I'm recording is my final message, then I'm probably already gone. My name was Marcus Hale. If you find an unmarked USB drive in your family's things, burn it. Don't watch. Because once it sees you, it never stops watching back. If you ever start receiving phone calls from your own number at exactly 3:07 a.m., don't pick up. Just delete the voicemails. Because the voice on the other end isn't trying to warn you, it's trying to make sure you end up exactly where it wants you. My name is Kevin Brooks. I'm 38 years old, a construction supervisor living in Cleveland, Ohio. This happened to me last year, and even now I still check my phone every night before sleeping. It started 2 weeks after my younger brother Nathan died in a car crash. The police said he lost control on the highway. I knew the truth. We had fought badly that night. I told him some awful things, that he was a burden, that I wished he wasn't my brother. He drove off drunk. He died instantly. 3 days after his funeral, the first call came. At 3:07 a.m. my phone rang. The caller ID showed my own number. I thought it was a glitch. I answered. There was silence at first, then heavy breathing, and then my own voice, but it sounded tired, broken, older. "Kevin, don't go to the old warehouse on 14th Street next week. Whatever you do, stay away from it." The call ended. I was shaken but convinced it was some technical error or a cruel prank. I deleted the voicemail. 4 days later, another call at exactly 3:07 a.m. Same number. My voice again, more urgent this time. "You didn't listen. You went anyway. Nathan is angry, Kevin. He knows what you said to him that night. He knows you meant it. I sat up in bed sweating. I hadn't told anyone about the fight with Nathan. Not even my wife. The calls kept coming every few nights. Each time the voice knew things it couldn't possibly know. Details about my childhood, private arguments with my wife, even the affair I had 2 years ago that I buried deep. By the second week, the voice started sounding more desperate. Listen to me, Kevin. If you don't change what you're about to do, you'll end up like me. You'll die in that warehouse. Alone. Begging for forgiveness. I started recording the calls. When I played them back during the day, the voice was clearly mine, but it had a strange echo like it was coming from a hollow room. I decided to test it. The voice had warned me not to go to the abandoned warehouse on 14th Street. So I went there on purpose one afternoon. It was an old meatpacking plant that had been shut for years. Nothing special. Just broken windows and graffiti. That same night at 3:07 a.m. the phone rang again. You fucking idiot. You went there today. Now it's locked in. Now I remember everything. The voice started crying, my own crying. It told me things about my future. That in 4 days I would go back to that warehouse at night because I would receive a message saying my brother's missing wallet was found there. That I would go alone. That something would be waiting for me inside. I stopped going to work. I told my wife I was sick. I stayed home and kept my phone switched off after midnight. But the calls still came. Even when the phone was off. On the night the voice had predicted, I received a text from an unknown number. Found Nathan's wallet at the 14th Street warehouse. Come quick before cops take it. I knew it was a trap. I didn't go. At 3:07 a.m. the call came anyway. The voice was screaming now. Why didn't you come? Why didn't you come? I'm already here. It's tearing me apart. Kevin, please. I'm sorry I fought with you. I'm sorry. Then the voice changed. It became Nathan's voice mixed with mine. You left me to die that night. Now I'm going to make sure you feel what I felt. The next morning I found deep scratches on my arms while sleeping. My wife said I was screaming in my sleep, calling my own name. I finally broke down and told my best friend Derek everything. He thought I was losing my mind from grief. But he agreed to stay with me one night and record everything. That night at 3:07 a.m. the call came on speakerphone. The voice spoke calmly this time. Derek, you shouldn't be here. You know what you did to your sister in 2019. Kevin isn't the only one who needs to pay. Derek turned white. He had never told anyone that his younger sister had attempted suicide after he leaked her private photos in college. He left the house immediately. I was alone again. On the final night, the voice didn't warn me anymore. It just spoke softly, almost kindly. It's time, Kevin. Come to the warehouse. Nathan is waiting. I'm waiting. We're all waiting for you. You'll feel better once you confess everything. I drove there at 2:30 a.m. with a gun in my glove box. The warehouse was pitch black. My flashlight barely worked. In the center of the big empty floor I found my brother's old wallet, the one he had with him the night he died. As I picked it up, all the doors slammed shut. My phone started ringing in my pocket even though there was no signal. I answered. My own voice came through, but this time it was right behind me. Turn around, Kevin. I turned slowly. There I was, another version of me standing 10 feet away, face pale, eyes completely black, blood on my shirt. You kept running from what you said to Nathan. But I lived it. Every day. Now we're going to stay here together, forever. I raised the gun and fired. The bullet hit the figure, but it just smiled wider. The last thing I remember is dropping the gun and hearing hundreds of voices, all mine, whispering from the darkness. I'm sorry, Nathan. I'm sorry. 3 months later. A man named Derek Reynolds uploaded a podcast episode about his missing best friend Kevin Brooks. In the episode he played one of the recorded 3:07 a.m. calls. The next night, Derek received a call at 3:07 a.m. The caller ID showed Kevin's number. I never believed in ghosts until my mother died in our family home in suburban Michigan. What happened after her death still keeps me awake at night. My name is Aaron Thompson. I'm 41 years old, an accountant from Grand Rapids. My mother, Linda, passed away from cancer in October 2024. She was 68. I was her only child and the one who took care of her in her last 2 years. After the funeral, I decided to stay in her house for a few weeks to clear out her things and prepare it for sale. The house was a normal 2-story colonial in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing creepy. But from the very first night I stayed there alone, strange things started happening. It began with the smell. My mother's favorite perfume, White Diamonds, would suddenly fill the living room around 9:15 p.m., the exact time she used to take her evening medicine. I checked everywhere. No bottles were open. The The smell would last 10 to 15 minutes and then disappear. On the fourth night I heard her voice. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I clearly heard her call my name from upstairs. Aaron? Come here for a second. I froze. It was her voice, weak but exactly like her last month's. I went upstairs. The bedroom was empty. But her bedside lamp was on, even though I had turned it off. I started recording voice memos on my phone every night just in case. On the seventh night the recordings caught something. At 2:41 a.m., while I was asleep in the guest room, a voice whispered near the phone, "I'm not ready to leave yet." It was my mother's voice. I almost left the house that morning. But something kept me there. Guilt maybe. I had argued with her a lot in her final months. I was tired of taking care of her. Once I even told her I wished it would just end soon. I regretted that deeply. After that, the activity increased. The TV would turn on by itself to her favorite old shows. Her rocking chair in the living room would move gently when the room was empty. One afternoon I found fresh tea in her favorite cup on the table. The tea was still warm. I told my wife about it. She thought I was stressed and grieving. She came to stay one weekend. Nothing happened while she was there. The moment she left, it started again, stronger. On the 12th night, I woke up to find my mother sitting at the edge of my bed. She looked exactly like she did before getting very sick, healthy, smiling softly. She whispered, "I forgive you, Aaron. But you need to tell the truth." I screamed and turned on the lights. She was gone. But on my phone there was a new voice recording I didn't make. It was me crying and saying, "I'm sorry I wanted you to die, Mom. I was so tired." I never said those words out loud. The next few days I felt her everywhere. She would follow me from room to room. I could hear her footsteps. Sometimes she would hum the same song she used to sing when I was a child. I decided to do what she asked. I sat in her bedroom with the camera on and confessed everything, how hard it was to take care of her, how I sometimes resented her, how I wished for my old life back. I cried like a baby. After that confession, the house became quiet for 2 days. Then on the last night I was packing my bags to finally leave. At 11:55 p.m., every light in the house turned on. I heard her voice loud and clear from the hallway. "Aaron, don't leave me here alone." I ran to the front door but it wouldn't open. All windows were stuck. The temperature dropped so much I could see my breath. Her voice came again right behind me. "You left me when I was alive. You can't leave me now." I turned around. She was standing there, but this time she looked like she did in her final days, thin, pale, sick. Her eyes were full of sadness and anger. I blacked out. When I woke up in the morning I was lying on the living room floor. The front door was wide open. My bags were packed neatly by the door. My phone had one final voice recording. It was my mother's voice saying softly, "Now you know how it feels to be left behind." I sold the house 2 weeks later. The new owners stayed only 9 days before putting it back on the market. They said the house felt heavy, and they kept hearing a woman crying at night. I still have the recordings. I listen to them sometimes when I can't sleep. If you ever have to clear out your parents' house after they pass, be careful what you say to them while they're alive. Because some parents don't leave, even after they're gone. Yakoi change chahi? Yo.